applause for myself.
Just gets them all fired up.
I mean, for us.
Ready.
Yeah. for us. Yeah.
This is the Buffalo Community Podcast, all about the greatest small town in the USA, the people in it, and how it all works together. Here are your hosts, Tyler Reiss and Mark Benzer.
Hey everybody, it is another episode of the Buffalo Community Podcast. I'm Tyler Reiss with Edina Realty, sitting across from Mark Benzer at Country Financial, and we're about to introduce our guest here. But before we get started, I got a text message earlier today, and you guys maybe don't know this, from Chad Wico over at Wico's Bowling Center, and they're actually doing they've been great supporters of Toys for Tots through the Rotary program. They've always put 2 boxes out in front of in the restaurant and then the bowling area, but they've been shut down ever since we dropped the boxes off, and toy donations are they're so slow right now. I'm due for pickup, and they're really down. So what they're actually doing is for every 16-inch pizza sold this coming Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, they're going to donate $5 for the local Toys for Tots, and I think that's pretty awesome that they're finding a way to make other ends meet for their donations, because they've been so generous in the past, and they continue to do so in just a little bit different ways. So if you can, Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, you can pre-order, you can pick up, but it's a 16-inch pizza. They're going to donate $5 for every single pizza that they sell. So Jenny, I'm cooking on Monday. Maybe Tuesday as well. Perfect. So that, and then also
maybe Sunday.
I'm really hungry. But also, nobody's guessed. Are you a Vikings fan?
No.
It's okay if you're not.
It's okay.
I know the deal. I'm a Packer fan.
Oh, jeez.
And that is it for the rest of our
thanks,
Buffalo Community
everybody.
Podcast. You don't need to know who this is, but anyway, we've got a well.
I just shut down my business. Nobody's gonna come.
Does anybody know any plate glass
I am a Vikings fan.
Yeah, I love the Vikings.
But we're at, I think, week 14, 13th game of the Vikings. Our pot is up to $260. Nobody has guessed the correct winner and the correct score. This Sunday they play the Tampa Bay Bucks. And be sure to message us before kickoff. First person to do so, the winner and the correct score, is going to win $260, compliments of the Buffalo Community Podcast.
Nice.
But enough for all that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
enough of that stuff
here.
So I'm really excited for this show, and it has nothing to do with all this fun stuff here. But those who don't know, today we have Christy Paul with us, who is married to Doug Paul.
Yes.
Not Paul Douglas, but
no, although
Douglas
he does
Paul.
get called that a lot.
Yeah.
And I've been called Paul Christie.
Sure.
It happens.
It happens. But also mother of 2 daughters, Lucy and Chloe. Lucy's in Buffalo High School.
Yep.
And Chloe's out in college in
Oregon.
Mm-hmm. So
It's coming back Friday, though.
That's got to be super exciting.
Yeah.
Is that a Go Ducks? Oregon Ducks?
Yes.
There you go.
Cool.
So
Christy
I'm also
Paul.
a Badger fan because I went there, and the Oregon Ducks beat the Badgers in the Rose Bowl, and she was the only one in the family who was excited.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, owner of Evelyn's, Muffy's Basement. Thanks for coming in, Christy.
Sure, thanks for having me.
And excited to get to know you and know a little bit about your business. And why don't you just kind of take us back for the last maybe 20 years and give us a quick...
It's a long story, but I'll make it short.
Okay.
I was not in the restaurant business.
Okay.
Have a marketing, public relations, large event background. So in my 20s, I had a great career. I found a really good mentor. Kids should get mentors. If you do a good job for them, they will take you with them. And so I volunteered and then became employee of the first Super Bowl task force that was here in town, which is way back in '92.
Yeah.
That was my first job.
Redskins
awesome.
and Cowboys.
So,
Bills.
yeah. So I was the first
Yeah.
employee, so I got to
Yeah.
sit with my dad on the 50-yard line. It was so cool.
That is cool.
So that was the first job, and then I followed her. So I got to do the NCAA tournament when I was here. Gorbachev came into town that year, and so I worked the pool. press pool for that. I did a presidential election. Won't name who because people
I'm so glad we didn't kick her out when she said she was a Packer fan.
Yeah. Turns
So
out
I
she's
did
got
press
cool
advance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they're not all
and
that
traveled
bad.
all over. Yeah. So I got to go all over the country. Did press advance for a presidential campaign, which was really cool. Because of that, I got to do the Liberty Medal presentation to Nelson Mandela and F.W. de Klerk. I mean, I got to do some cool stuff because I found a good mentor and did a good job for her.
That's awesome.
And it ended up in New York at Rolling Stone and Us Magazine. Did some public relations for Bloomingdale's, and then
That's awesome.
ran out of money and moved back home.
It's too expensive here.
Was about to turn 30. I'm like, what am I doing?
Right.
So, came
What-
back here and
What out of that huge pedigree of a career, what's your favorite out of that list?
I loved New York. I lived in New York for almost 4 years. Loved Rolling Stone. I really liked the presidential election, but by the end of it, you've been every 4 or 5 days, you're like hitting a new town and setting up and
Sure.
and dealing with that, and that's kind of tiring. So that was fun and really interesting. But the working at Winter Media, which was Rolling Stone and Men's Journal and Us Magazine, that was a fun job because I got to create promotions for our advertisers. So and then I'd go and do the events for them and got to travel for that too. So that was kind of fun.
So you said that was about a 4 to 5 year period of your life?
3 to 4 years.
3 to 4 years? Okay.
And then the mentor had moved back to Minneapolis. I stayed in New York and worked at Winter Media, but my mentor moved back. And when I was ready to move back, I called her, and she just happened to be part of a group that brought in the United Nations IT group. They have they call it a plenipotentiary conference, and they have it every few years. And we were the host city for that. And so I got to come back and be the director of operations for that. So that's how I kind of got back here.
Cool.
Was to work for her. And then I worked at the Star Tribune, and finally my dad was trying to figure out what to do with his IT company, and I was kind of thinking about children and settling down a little bit. And so it transitioned a little bit into sales and marketing and stuff for that. So
Well, very fun.
kind of interesting background.
Very.
Now I own Evelyn's.
Yeah, now you own Evelyn.
Well, that's a natural progression.
Right.
Everybody knows that. That's
Yeah.
that's in the book of business.
Natural springboard.
Duh.
Right.
A wine bar.
Knock off the
Right.
Super Bowl presidential
Yeah.
election. All right, wine bar.
Yeah.
Bye bye. But
so-
that's that's my last step in my career. That's the what do you want to do when you're done? Like after you've sold your real estate and your insurance, and you're kind of looking at your last decade or whatever, or 15 years of your
Yep.
career. It's like what
Yeah.
do I want to do with all of this that I've learned, and what are kind of my hobbies, which happens to be drinking wine.
Right.
Well, if you can get paid for it, that's great.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So, and actually, I read the bio, and it said, someone's like, where can we grab a glass of wine? That was kind of like the seed that started it all. And that was
Yeah.
a few years ago now. What, 4 years ago?
Yeah, well, that was probably actually like 7. Because
Okay.
I had some friends who came in for the occasional
Sure.
sales, and they're like, okay, let's go get a glass of wine. And I'm like, that's at my house. That's
Yeah.
what we're doing,
Right.
You're done? You want to go home now?
Yeah.
And, my friend just kind of said, you like wine, you should do that.
Right.
Okay.
So I did.
That's awesome. Located right downtown, right in the thick of all the occasional stores. And you've got a kind of a cool... You are not Evelyn.
I am not Evelyn.
Do you get called Evelyn all the time, I'm guessing?
Right. And this is why I'm a Packer fan. So this is going to pull that full circle, that
Sure.
first comment. My grandparents are Melford and Evelyn on my dad's side. And I was very close to both of them. But my grandma lived to be 104, so I was very, close to her throughout my life. And when I was thinking of a name for Evelyn, or for Evelyn's now, but I'm like, Christie's Corner, or, I was kind of
Right.
coming up with all these names. And somehow I just kind of,
Yeah.
I should really name it after my grandma. Because she had passed away, right before
Oh, sure.
I decided to do it.
It was
and I
right
thought,
right before you did?
yeah, and
Okay.
I thought, oh my God, she'd be so tickled.
Yeah.
And then she'd also be like, oh, Dolly, don't named after me. You don't
Yeah.
have to do that. You know, it should be kind of like the whole thing. But they lived in Milwaukee. So that's why, like, I remember being in Muffy's basement, literally.
Is
the
that
family.
your dad's nickname or your
Muffy is grandpa's.
grandpa's nickname? Okay.
And that's where we watched the Packer game, Thanksgiving, you know?
Yeah.
That's
Sure.
weekend. And I just have those memories. And I went to school in Wisconsin and would go see
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
When, you know, I would need to get away from school, I'd take the bus to go see them. And
Very
so
fun.
it just kind of fell into place.
If I could understand being a Packer fan, like that story comes about as close as I could give somebody a pass on.
Yeah,
for-
just like think of your best childhood memory when you're like
And
with your
associate it with-
family and
Yep.
your cousins and
Right.
your aunt and uncle who you adore, and everybody's
Yep.
like downstairs. And
Our best ones always turn into worse ones.
Yeah.
Missed field goals. And
Yeah.
well, they weren't very good. The Packers were not very good
Right.
when I was
Yeah.
watching them
It was
growing up. But
pre Reggie White.
Yeah.
pre Favre. But
Yeah.
So, you've brought some equipment
I
with
did
you
bring
and
some
supplies,
equipment.
and as we're learning a little bit more, but why don't you tell us what
Yeah.
you brought here?
So Muffy and Evelyn at 5:00 every day, a Manhattan. So, and that's how I kind of went to Muffy's basement as my next thing, is that everybody would say, "Oh, Evelyn, she must have loved wine." Like, well, no, actually, she had a Manhattan every day and lived to be 104. So,
Right.
That's the key.
Science.
so there you go.
Yeah.
So I thought I would bring some makings for Manhattan. I'm going to not do Muffy's Manhattan. Is my dad's fraternity brothers called it the brown mumbler when my dad introduced it to the fraternity brothers, because after a few you mumble.
What a cool name too. Both of them
So
really.
we serve that too, but that is just straight up. My dad, like when he orders it at a restaurant, it's almost embarrassing. It's like loud. No fruit juices,
Yeah.
just the ice, a little vermouth, and the whiskey. You know, it's like, that's what I want.
Brown mumbler.
Brown
Yeah.
mumbler.
Yeah.
What we're going to make today is the traditional, which is very similar, but we're going to use rye whiskey. And I use Crooked Water, which is a woman-owned distillery, Minnesota
Where are they?
based. She's Minnetonka. I do think that she does her distilling in Wisconsin. But she comes up. She buys the barrels. She does everything. She just distills it in Wisconsin.
Very fun.
Yeah, and I knew her from a previous my IT days.
Previous life?
Yeah, she also took over her dad's business. So kind of interesting. So we're both in alcohol now. I don't know what that means.
Let's see. I'm gonna grab one of these cameras and kind of get up on it.
Dive
here.
in there.
right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start with the rye, and for each drink, so I'm gonna have one with you too, and then I'm gonna go to work.
Perfect.
It's a couple ounces of the rye whiskey. You can also use bourbon. That's quite all right.
I think we talk more about alcohol on this show than I think we really realize. It kind of started with Rusty Calf.
Yep. So that's the start. And then sweet vermouth. Do not do dry. I made that mistake once when I was younger.
No, of course
Oops,
that is
that's
just
an ounce. I'm spilling all over because I'm in the microphone here.
That's okay.
that is just the mixing jug, right, guys?
That
is
is the
not a
mixing
single
That is
serve
mine.
one.
That is
And
mine.
here's the trick, and I learned this from the guy who created all of our drinks. I did not know this. He said, don't shake it because you ruin the color.
Oh,
See that pretty color?
kind of that transitioning from.
Like whoever comes in here next with the tablecloth is going, what
Yeah.
happened here?
I call it Christmas.
Yeah.
And a couple shakes of bitter for each drink. So we're going to do 2, 3. And that's it for that part. And then you stir it instead of shake it. Because if you shake it, it's going to get all cloudy. Same thing with like a martini, which is why like Bond is like shaken, not stirred.
Yeah.
Why did he shake
That's
it?
yeah.
Right?
That's
Why did he
That
do
goes
that?
against
It
everything
goes
you've been
against
taught.
Everything I was just taught.
yeah.
So we'll start with you. And I like to use these big, chunky
Ice cubes.
ice cubes.
Yeah. That feels fancy.
It does feel fancy, and that's what we do in Muffy's Basement, is we serve the fancy stuff.
Yep.
So you strain it. I'm going to just stand up and I'm going to spill even more of this.
Okay.
The first time I saw actually anything from Muffy's Basement, I saw it on Instagram, and I thought, we have a speakeasy here in town, and I had no idea about it. And
Well, you're not supposed to know about it.
It's
you
the
know the
best.
right
It's the
people.
least.
No,
Best kept secret, least kept secret?
unfortunately, it was just kind of hitting its, people were starting to hear about it right when the COVID hit.
Ooh, I'm excited. Manhattans are some of my favorite.
The old fashioned we do is really good too.
That's-
but I wanted to
that's
do
my other
something
favorite.
after my grandparents, I'm like, this
cool.
down here. And then fancy cherries. Do not do the maraschino.
But that says the original maraschino.
Right, but these are, when you look at them, they're delicious.
Oh
They're
gosh,
they're
they're
real.
not.
Like-
They're not neon.
No, these are like really good, and I'm going to give one of our local businesses a plug because I think that you can get them at Abundant Kitchen.
Awesome.
I know you could last year because I bought some
I believe
from
that.
them, or they have something similar.
That's our former guest, Becky Melvey. at
Yep.
Abundant
We
Kitchen.
try and do a lot with Becky when the first shutdown happened and all of us were shut down. She and I did online kind of. I made one of her recipes from her recipe book,
Sure.
and then we served it for takeout, which I
Oh,
think
cool.
a lot of people really liked it. And I've had somebody ask me, "Are you going to be doing that again?" So I'm probably going to try and do that next week again.
Oh, very fun.
But so she's kind of fun to work with, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
a lot of the businesses here in town are fun to do.
There seems to be some camaraderie.
Yeah,
And these days, you kind of have to. And what better way to?
yeah.
So
There you go.
to Muffy and Evelyn,
Mm-hmm.
Cheers.
To live and to be 104.
104.
104.
Guaranteed. Pretty tasty.
That's smooth too.
Yeah.
That's very smooth. It doesn't have that rye.
You don't feel like the
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Ooh,
yep, that's a good rye whiskey. And it's local, which is kind of impressive. So.
My cartoon
Yes.
bubble shows us. All of a sudden, we just start rambling for 3 hours. We're like, oh, what happened? Like, this is I don't know if that was the best episode or the worst episode.
Mumbling,
I
right?
had an awesome time.
Yep. So
Now you know why.
I did see something that was pretty interesting is kind of a, I don't know if you call it a catchphrase, but of Evelyn's was, "That's the berries." What an old school comment, which is really, really cool.
And that's what my grandma would say. My daughter had written she said it a lot, but my daughter had written a Christmas letter once. My grandma called me. She's like, "I just have to tell you, oh my gosh, that was the berries. It was so funny, So
Have you heard it outside of your grandma?
I think
is it something she totally made up, or is it something
No.
I've just never heard of, but other people have?
no, I looked it up, and it's the same era. I think more people said the bee's knees.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I think more people said that phrase at
The
that
bomb.
time. Yeah.
.com. It's a little bit different.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
Well,
to
at
interrupt
104 years old, she got to see a few generations
1912.
of yeah.
She goes, the year that big ship sank. That's when I was born.
that big ship.
That big ship. So
Everybody knows that.
think
one.
about, to
Right.
104.
To see that much history. I mean, and then a legacy kind of continuing on. That's really
I
fun.
wish I would have asked more. But if you go to Muffy's basement, my aunt found these pictures when my grandma had passed away of them with their friends. And it looks everything that you think the 20s, 30s looks like.
Yeah.
Cool.
And they're hung up. And you think, how do you get back there? Which I know it was hard back then too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the fancy cocktails at 5 with your spouse in the room that the kids can't go in.
Right.
That whole
Yeah.
Yeah, I think these 20s coming up are going to be a lot different than the last 20s
I think so.
that they went through. That they went
Yeah.
through. Yeah, that
interesting, but yeah.
it's funny you mentioned the room that kids can't go in. I think everybody knows a grandparent that definitely had that room. Get off the Davenport.
Right. And and they had the plastic. I don't know
Yes.
if my grandparent, they had the plastic on the furniture and then the plastic runway from the front door to,
Yeah.
Funny. It just doesn't look good at all. But God forbid this stuff gets dirty.
Yeah.
So we'll just make it.
and they work so, I mean, we just go online and we order, something from Wayfair or whatever,
Right.
or we don't think about it. And when they bought a piece of furniture, that was
It's a 40-year investment.
Yeah.
that's a big investment.
Right.
Yeah. So Kids, get off of it. You can't sit on there.
Yeah, right.
Get on the floor.
Yeah.
Buffalo's really known for the occasional stores, and that I'm assuming that's your bread and butter time frame of oh, it's not. This wasn't even a canned response.
Don't
guys.
assume. Don't assume.
I'm assuming that.
Yeah.
We do well, but we can only fit so many people into Evelyn's on those days. In fact, those days are really kind of hard for us because you can't bring in somebody special to cook
Right.
after not being trained. But you don't want to staff for just one weekend out of the month. So in some ways it's kind of hard, and we have to kind of limit how many people we can. And also our customer service, when it's that busy, it just,
Yeah.
any of the mistakes that we have made that I've like regretted have happened during occasional sales.
Sure.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say, I'm not grateful for occasional sales.
Right.
I am.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just what I really love is the normal
Yeah.
weekend, weeknight, local people. Like they walk. Everybody knows your name. Like they walk in, I know them.
Yep.
They love being there. They're not in a rush to get back out shopping. They want to just enjoy it.
That's why I call it the greatest small town in the USA.
Yes.
I think Buffalo still has that for now, and hopefully for a long time. Exactly what you're describing right there.
And those we have to work twice as hard to make the amount on an occasional sale.
Yeah.
Because the bills are smaller, and they're not drinking wine; they're drinking iced tea. So the bills are a lot smaller. The tabs are smaller.
Yep.
The work is harder, and so in order to do what you might do on a Friday night,
Yep.
you have to work really hard to capture it.
Yep.
So people do assume that. And when I started, I was like, I'm going to hit that occasional sale thing. Now I look and I like, lesson learned. I really, really love just the normal
Yeah.
Yeah. Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The locals.
And some people who come from some of the outskirts towns, but they've been to, they just love the town. They love everything about it. They love, Hayes, and they love, there's people who have been here who aren't from here who are also like the same. This is so great, this town.
Sure.
Yeah. I think every time I go into one of those stores and different ones, it seems like they've decorated different, or there's different inventory. And I thought, I haven't been in here in a year. I don't buy antiques myself, so I was okay. But it's just a cool atmosphere, and the wine coupled with the basement, I think, is a really neat thing.
It's fun, yeah.
Very fun.
It's very fun. I love it. Best job I've had.
Yep.
Most days.
Most days.
Best job, and remember, she's done a Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah.
On the 50-yard line.
Yeah. So in addition to craft cocktails and wine, you guys have a food menu. Flatbread pizzas being kind of one of those staples.
Yep. Like a small plate. We're not your fancy, higher end type of restaurant. It's more of you just want to have something to eat while you're having a drink. But it's good food, but that's not where my background was. So that's what I was the most afraid of. I was like, if I could have just done the wine and
no food. Yeah.
The cocktails, it would have been
right.
I was like so afraid of the food thing.
Yeah. So how do you I think you've mentioned to me once in the past that, your background isn't in restaurant ownership or as a cook, or how do you develop a food menu when that's something that you're not experienced in and actually somewhat fearing a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I'd worked in the industry like through college in my younger days, so I knew enough about it, but I was more on the server and the bartending side. So I kind of understood the kitchen, but Buffalo, best town. I mean, our mayor said, I'm going to get you in touch with the chef who's over at the Marsh, and he'll help you.
Yeah.
Because I had mentioned I'm kind of nervous about the food because everybody was like, you got to do food. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And so he came and he said, look, you can do really good food very simply, as long as you get like the quality ingredients. And so he kind of gave us our first flatbread, like the margarita flatbread and the bruschetta, and some of those like first items that we had. And once he explained that, I'm like, oh, okay. I can do this.
Yeah.
And so then we introduced the paninis, and we do some pasta once in a while. The lasagna from Abundant Kitchen. We've done macaroni cheese and stuff, but mostly it's flatbreads are really, because we do the monthly flatbread.
Yeah.
So every month we have a feature flatbread.
Yep.
Where we try and come up with items that are for the season.
Yeah.
And then people kind of, what's your flatbread for the month,
Sure.
Well, it keeps it coming back.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that kind of came second after the wine. But now I think people like it because it's a little lighter. And
Yeah.
if you want, a good salad or a good flatbread, that's got a great
It's not
soup. And
stuff in your face full of a very filling
Right.
pizza, so you can actually enjoy what you're drinking as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes really well with wine. And then we do some of the, we do like the flatbread of the month and some of the nibbles, we call them, downstairs.
Yeah.
Sure.
What's your favorite wine?
I really love Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand because I love the kind of the grapefruit. You had it, I think. There.
I don't remember what it's
I
called.
like it's Massey, the one that we're carrying now. But I always look for if I'm not going to do that, I look for another New Zealand to replace it.
I believe you referred to it as white.
White wine.
Just
Yeah.
just kidding. That's a bad joke.
That's the white wine.
Yeah.
And I really like red too. No.
Yes. Yeah, pink, not my favorite.
Yeah. The red one, we've got this one called Antico Fuco, which is fun to say because it's almost like you're swearing, but you're not.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I recommend the Antico Fuco.
Right.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
But that's a really good Italian one. It's a blend of Italian grapes, so I like that one too.
Was the love of wine, was it a natural progression? I mean, you started with the wine bar part, but it sounds like Evelyn was the cocktails. What really got you started in wine?
My husband.
Okay.
When we met, I was born in Minnesota but raised in Milwaukee, so I was like a beer gal.
Yeah. Like all good Wisconsin gals.
Yeah.
I was a good beer gal. And he had gotten, because he lived out in Seattle. When I was living in New York, he was living in Seattle. And so he had like explored some of the Northern California and the vineyards and stuff like that. So he was the wine guy, and so he introduced me to wine.
Sure.
And started just trying different kinds, and that was early in our marriage. So we've always been kind of into trying different wines, and then scotches too was another thing that we liked. So
New York,
yeah.
Seattle. How'd you guys hook up? Or how'd you meet? Hook up, I don't need any details.
yeah, he would like to say that we did, but
Hey-oh.
he and I had mutual friends. Both of us went to Wisconsin.
Okay.
And we were actually, my fraternity, or his fraternity and my sorority were neighbors, but I didn't like his fraternity. So we had like friends, like my best friends were married to some of his friends. And then there was like kind of this group.
Sure.
And the two of us were the only ones single. Like he came back from Seattle, I came back from New York. And
I guess.
even when I was in New York, my friend Peggy was like, oh, if you were here, I would introduce you to Doug. And I'm like, well, I'm in New York, so whatever.
Yeah.
So they introduced us during a Super Bowl, actually the first one that the Packers won.
Wow,
I'm going to
magical.
cut your mic
Isn't
right
that,
now.
it all goes together,
Yeah.
isn't it weird?
How romantic.
I don't think I cheered very loud because I didn't want anybody to know.
Yeah.
So yeah, from there, I think we were both like 29 or something. So
Cool.
yeah, so we had both kind of had our done what you should do in your 20s.
Yep.
Go out and kind of explore, see what you want to do, and then
Come
back
home.
together
Yeah.
and came home and got married.
Yeah. With COVID, I suppose that's been a pretty big damper this year to really bring us up.
Yeah.
You'd have to change some things up. I mean,
Yeah.
what are you
a
doing
lot.
differently now?
Really focused. I mean, I ramped up the patio,
Yep.
of course, and it was great weather this summer, so we didn't have a lot of rainouts, and I think people just loved being outside and being out there.
Yeah.
So that actually, that we almost had a normal summer. I mean, we were down. I mean, of course, spring, terrible, down 70, 80%. No matter how much the community wants to support you, and they do. They order and they want to support you and they want to keep you going and they hope you're going to stay in business. Takeout is like, you hear it from everybody in the restaurant business. It's unless you're already in it.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard. But we did the takeout. At first I'm like, I'm not going to do this takeout thing. I'm just going to suck it up. This isn't going to be long. But kind of a couple weeks into it, I'm like, I better
do something. And with that first one, I kind of got it was so much easier to ramp up this time because I kind of got my thing. Like I knew what people were ordering now. Sure. The online ordering system that I use is it's inexpensive and really easy. It doesn't integrate with my accounting system, but it's really from your perspective, if you're ordering it. So I got that down, I introduced that. I started doing like the Muffy's mixers.
What's that?
Which I brought back. So we do the Mai Tai mix and the spicy margarita mix without the alcohol, but I do little instructions on what you need.
Sure.
And we bottle it up in little 4-ounce bottles that you can buy online. Like if you're ordering, takeout, you just buy a couple.
Where can you get it online?
The Evelyn's winebar.com. If you go there's an orange tab.
Okay.
That's where our takeout ordering system is. You can order it within that, or you can call. When we're open for takeout, you can call. There's some people who are like, "You got that spicy margarita mix? I'll take 4 of them."
Or you can simply click the link above or below.
There you go.
Be nice if I know that there is a group who's trying to push the governor into letting us do cocktails to go. That would help. If you could bottle them up, but we're going to introduce that's a 4-ounce and that's 2.
Yep.
And then we're going to do a 12-ounce for 6, and I'm going to try and have those for people to buy for the holidays or whatever, and make your own at home.
That sounds like a great stocking stuffer idea.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just coming up with other things that you can do.
Sure.
You're never going to I'm not going to make up the loss. There's no way, especially at this time of year December, the first couple weeks of December are usually big weeks for people going out with friends, meeting up with friends for their Christmas exchange. And
even though, it's 50 degrees today.
I know, but we can't be open outdoors either. I would put that patio up today.
Yeah.
Be like, come on down.
No heaters needed. It's...
Yeah, but we can't do that either. We can't do indoor or outdoors.
I didn't mean to really bring the tone down.
I had an IT company during the 2008. I had just purchased that from my dad and had one good year, and then 2008 hit. So I know that there's good around the corner if I could just make it through. And there's all kinds of things that people in the community are doing, and there's grants, and there's ways to stay in business, but
stay afloat. Yeah.
And it's not fun. I like I was saying, I like people in there.
Right.
Going out with my mask and my bag and going, here you go, into the car,
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's so much effort that was put into your building, into the ambiance, and it's as cool as any business in this town as far as I'm concerned. Just in terms of walking in and looking around and the floors, the art, everything. I love your space.
Yeah, and when we walked by, it's another one of those. I wasn't quite ready to do the wine bar thing. I had just started my own marketing company here in town, and I was kind of not really ready, but always looking. And my husband and I were somewhere down here, and we walked by the building, and I saw the floors, and I was like, well, maybe we should take a look at this.
Space for rent. The sign was right there.
It was for rent.
Right.
And I'm like, And my landlord was cool. I thought, I'm going to call this guy, and he's going to say, what? No way are you going to do that to my building. But he was like, okay.
Okay, then it'll sit vacant.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Well, it would have been, they rent pretty quick for some of the shops, I think.
Yeah.
This is delicious.
It is so good.
It is. It actually
that's why you guys are like, can't come up with the next thing.
It gets, maybe we won't even edit that part out now. Yeah. It gets better as it ages a little bit here. Just as flavors get to know each other a
Yep.
little bit.
And the ice cube that way is like a slow melter, but it kind of, everything kind of, first few sips, I think.
I'm seeing that more and more. I mean, there's got to be some chemistry behind that of actually having
Slow
one big
melt.
cube and
It waters down less.
instead of the
And people think it's fancy.
Yeah.
exactly. You can charge more.
Yeah.
Well, some people charge for it, like if you want the black, not here, like in town or anywhere near here, but I have had somebody told me when they came in that they were charged for the block ice cube.
Really?
I believe
And I'm
it.
like, brilliant.
Yeah. I'll write that down.
Yeah. No, I believe it. I mean, that's you go into any fancy place downtown Minneapolis, it's the experience. It's not you're not going in here to buy a craft cocktail or a glass of wine because it's cheap. It's the experience, it's the atmosphere, it's who you're with, it's creating that experience for everybody.
Yeah, I don't want to be the last stop. I want to be the stop, like you've had a nice dinner and you want to go to Muffy's and have a cocktail and dessert, or you want something light and you just want to go with your spouse and the kids, like you got to pick them up in a few hours. You know, I don't want to be everything to everybody. I want to be kind of that place, like you said, that somebody wants that small, I feel like I'm in an Italian bistro or, you know, whatever,
Very
for
cool.
upstairs or downstairs. I feel like I'm back in time.
Yep. And we even kind of lowered our voices right now on how it should be.
Right.
Don't be listening to our conversation
Yeah.
over there.
So when you're not running the wine bar, what are you doing? What?
No, it surprisingly it takes more time. Like I thought I'm going to do my marketing during the day, and then this will be my, so I'll take on these marketing projects as well as open this up. It ends up that there's a lot more to the behind the scenes, the business part of it. Because I do my own marketing because I've got a marketing background, so I do my own marketing. I do most of my own bookkeeping. I have a bookkeeper who fixes my mess for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I do that. I'm always kind of like checking the numbers. All my systems so the things. It's not just going there. You got to order the food, and then you meet the food truck, and then you got to order the wine. You meet the wine. Like all these things that I didn't really.
Yeah.
I mean, I anticipated like I'd have to do bookkeeping and marketing and stuff, but I didn't realize the time.
But for the rest of us, we can just come in and get it.
Yeah.
Great.
It's easy for us.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's that, and then I just like to be there. I have really good employees that, I kind of let it go on Tuesday nights, and although she just had a baby, so actually perfect timing. One of the gals who manages for me, but
Congrats to her.
I'm letting go of some of that, but I like to be there because that's where you get the what's going on, what are people liking, what are they not liking, and you just kind of get to talk. Like I said, I like being part of the community, so
Right.
Yeah.
not being there is hard. I try, but
And is it 7 days a week, or what is the schedule right now?
it's Tuesday through Saturday.
Okay.
Just found that those were and I need to be with my family. So when I'm not at work and working, like at home doing the work stuff, I want to be with them, watching football game with my husband, or my husband and I, when the restaurants are open, we like to go. We're just like everybody else. We like to go on, a Saturday or a Sunday and hang out together and be together. And I love to read. I love to look out my window at the river.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
I think I could speak for a lot of people. Just that how we took for granted, just that ability to just go out to eat. Friday night, what should we do? Whether it's a drive, whether it's Culver's or something that you've maybe been planning for a little while, and you're ready to spend a little, whatever it is. Just having that taken away has just been like
It's awful. And my husband and I have a tradition, and we've been doing it since we were married, where we go and we buy our Christmas gifts. We go together shopping to buy the last things, like the stocking stuffers and all that kind of stuff. And then we always have lunch and have a beer and then we go back and shop, and then we stop somewhere on the way home and have, another beer and or a glass of wine or a cocktail or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just I'm missing the fact that I'm going to do that this year. Like, we're not going to do that this year. That is like a tradition. And somebody said, well, do it at home. I'm like,
No.
it's just
Not the same.
yeah.
There's a piece missing for sure.
Yeah. Or the day off where you're like, well, because he works from home now, because he was working in Minneapolis, and they're all working from home from his job, and we'd be like, oh, we should go for we can't go to lunch right now.
Yeah.
We both are here Monday. We should go and
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that maybe we missed?
I don't think so. We talked. I love
This drink.
this drink. I love Buffalo. I love like the camaraderie between the shops and the businesses, and how everybody's trying to help each other out right now and come up with creative ways to do that. And it's a great small town to be a part of.
I think one creative way for all 15,000 of our viewers to support not only the Buffalo Community Podcast, but businesses like Evelyn's Wine Bar and all of our guests, is to go and subscribe and share it. You don't go and be 15,001, because I think that really helps. Any free publicity, it doesn't cost anything, but it gets the word out, and learn a little bit something new about somebody.
Well, yeah, you hear I do watch your podcast. I'm not sucking up. I do, because you get to hear
Keep going.
about
you
get to hear about like businesses and how they started. And like I listened to I knew about Becky's business, but I didn't know how she started, or Nick from Nick Knackery and DeZiel, and you kind of Integraprint. They just did something all these businesses. You hear how they came about.
Yeah.
And
Stories are cool.
Especially this time right now, small businesses and how they're trying to stay afloat and suffering, but yet there's this whole we're going to keep each other alive.
Right.
We're really finding it fun to talk about the personal story, because it's so much more than, if we had an accountant on, and no disrespect to the future accountants on here, we don't want to hear you talk about columns and rows at all.
Nor do you want to hear about insurance.
Or real estate.
Nor do you want to hear about
it's
that's
that
not
personal story that makes those connections here in town, which make it.
Yeah. But why do you do real estate here, and why do you do accounting here? That that, and then it becomes oh yeah, I can relate to that. I see that. I know why. Yeah.
It's very fun.
Yeah.
Well, that's we're kind of winding down here, so.
I still have my drink.
Yeah.
But cheers again.
Cheers again.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
For the Buffalo Community Podcast, I'm Tyler Reiss.
I'm Mark Benzer.
I'm Christy Paul.
Yes. Everybody kind of gets caught off guard.
Yeah.
There. And we do that purposely.
Yeah.
Fun. Yeah.
Who am I again?